Welcome, and thank you all for joining us for this very special series of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. I'm Shanti Ryle, the Director of Content at Crexi, and this is the Women of Influence series, delivering next-level insights and expertise live from GlobeSt's Women of Influence conference. And today we are thrilled to sit down with Bettina Hunt. A little bit about our guest. Bettina, CCIM, CPM, is a Senior Vice President with Colliers, a member of the Arizona Healthcare Team, and a National Colliers Healthcare Fellow, specializing in healthcare real estate, including tenant representation, landlord representation, owner user sales, and investment sales. Bettina is an accomplished real estate broker with over 24 years of experience and 2 decades of specializing specifically in healthcare. She is passionate about her commitment to helping others, which demonstrates through her thorough, prompt review and recommendations on transactions with every single client she works with. Arizona Big Media recognized Bettina in 2019 as one of their most influential women. Congratulations.
Thank you.
She has earned a reputation for going out of her way to strategize multifaceted solutions to complex client needs and has been recognized for this talent and achievement. She's creative in her approach and professional in her delivery and astute in her ability to accurately assess situations and deliver solutions that are beneficial to all parties. Yes. Prior to Colliers, she worked at Healthcare Trust of America, a publicly traded REIT, for a decade, and served as the Senior Director of Leasing, Director of Operations, and Designated Broker for the Arizona offices. During her time there, she managed all leasing responsibilities for 3.7 million square feet of medical office space across 9 states. That is a large portfolio. Wow. Mm-hmm. She worked for Healthcare Realty after they acquired HTA as they transitioned the company. And before that, she represented the owner of the Banner, Del E, Webb, and Boswell Medical Center campus, where she served as the Director of Leasing and Operations. So you have been in healthcare real estate for a while.
That is correct.
I love it. How did you, well, first, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me
I was so
today.
excited to learn about your background. I just went right into it.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'd love to know more in your own words. We just read your bio, but how did you get into commercial real estate, and what about it so attracted that you spent your whole career in it?
That's right. I first received my real estate license thinking it was only going to be beneficial for residential. And I started off managing apartment buildings with it. And one of the things that I found is that when it was time for me to go home, everyone else was coming home. And I would often get those after-hour calls and all the emergencies, losing their keys in the elevator shaft or now walking into a repair that needed to be done. And I really didn't get any peace and quiet after hours.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so I kind of started sharing my concerns with others. And I was asked if I ever thought about commercial real estate before. So I looked into it further and ended up applying for a job in downtown Chicago, where the owner owned and leased, as well as managed office buildings, high-rise buildings in Chicago.
Awesome. And then that was kind of your first step into the commercial space.
That's correct.
And then healthcare in particular.
That's interesting.
Let's talk
about it. I relocated to Arizona from Chicago after 7 years in the industry. And when I was taking my kids to their pediatrician, I was inside a medical office building. And at that time, of course, I needed new employment because I had just moved to a new state. And I thought about it, like, I wonder how different this would be. And I met someone who was actually leaving his current position there at the same building. And we talked a little bit, and he told me a little bit more about medical. And I thought this would be a good opportunity for me, so I applied for his position.
And you got it.
I got the job.
Look at that gumption. That's amazing.
Yes.
So I'd love to know, we'll get more into the world of healthcare real estate a little bit later, but I'd love to know what, either innate qualities of yours or maybe the results of early lessons you learned earlier in your career, do you think served you best in that moment where you're just like, yeah, I'm going to pursue that opportunity? Or even to today, what has been most valuable to you as you've navigated your journey?
Yes, one of the things I believe is I trust people, probably way too much, but I do trust people often, so I don't mind having a conversation with a stranger. So speaking with that manager was not unusual for me at the time, but I just kind of jumped into another conversation that was happening in the elevator, and he just happened to describe the fact that he was leaving a current role. But I would say that the quality I have is to treat other people the way I want to be treated, and I have a passion and a desire to help others. So I always believe that that's how other people are, and that the fact that I intervened and expressed that I was looking for work, it wouldn't be a problem with him sharing more information with me.
Absolutely. And I love that you say that, because I think, a lot of people do operate by that code, especially in commercial real estate in particular, where it is so relationship based and your reputation follows you, right? I'm curious, just in terms of challenges you faced in your career or obstacles, has there ever been a time where, unfortunately, I would hate to hear it, but have you ever faced somebody taking advantage of that, or maybe just not treating you the way you would want to be treated? And then how did you navigate that?
Yes, unfortunately it does happen, because sometimes people recognize your skill set and they would use it to their advantage. And I've had opportunities where I would be contacted for certain positions or certain responsibilities. I would do the work, but someone else would want to take the credit. And that's not a fun situation to be in, because you have to address it. But you do find a way to address it. That way you are keeping that peaceful relationship, if you could, because I don't really want to hold a grudge. It's not a good feeling I have, but I also know that it would not help me to continue to move forward if I was to allow that resentment to stay present in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess kind of jumping off of that, I hear in that you have the courage to address the issue when it does arise, right? And I think maybe, I would definitely say a lot of younger professionals, definitely a lot of women, are kind of scared to confront those challenges when they become a parent, and sometimes, unfortunately, will just let me work around it, or it's not my place to call it out, or I'm just going to deal with it, head down, do the work.
Right.
What would you say to young professionals, and especially women in commercial real estate, who maybe encounter that? What advice would you give them to find that courage?
It does take a lot of practice to get better with it, because one of the things I was afraid of is to display courage, because early in my career, the more you were outspoken, the more you were referred to as being aggressive. It was never looked at as assertive. It was always, this aggression is coming, and it's like I'm just trying to express myself. And I had to find better ways to say it. So if I was talking to another person, I would still recommend, even a younger Bettina, I would recommend still facing a situation, but sometimes it's also important to make other people aware of it.
Yeah.
You don't always want everyone in the office to be involved if it can be resolved between the two individuals. But sometimes it is good to let someone in leadership know what's taking place and allow them to give you an opportunity to correct it first. And if you're not able to correct it one-on-one with that person, then you can engage others to come in as mediators.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think, too, hopefully most people will be able to work at a place that will support them if there is that kind of conflict. And
That's right.
Conflict resolution is a huge thing in corporate circles, trying to do training for that. But yeah, no, I really appreciate those lessons learned stories. I'd love to get more into the healthcare of it all. Right now, medical office, doctor's offices, they're huge.
They are.
They're huge. We've got an aging population that wants more and more specialized healthcare support. You've got labs working on more and more innovative healthcare solutions. I don't know to what extent you'd work with life science buildings. But I would really love to get kind of your bird's eye overview of where the healthcare real estate sector has been in the last 10, 20 years or so, and where you see it now.
Well, I'm so glad to be introduced to healthcare. I did the general office in downtown Chicago, but started the healthcare almost 20 years ago when I came to the Phoenix market. And that sector, I have to say, is resilient. I specifically recognized in the early years of my career is that there are 10,000 or more people turning 65 every day. That's over 4 million a year. So people are still getting sick, so there's still a need for more healthcare, more doctors, more nurses. and more employees dealing with the healthcare sector. As a result, there's a need for more space, more medical office buildings, more leasing activity, more sales activity. So it is really a good sector to be a part of, and you can see the shift from 10 years ago until today, where the need has not diminished at all. In fact, it has become greater. Specifically in the market I live in. I'm in a Phoenix market, and Phoenix is growing.
Happy retirees.
It is growing rapidly, and not only with young families, but still also with the older population who has decided to retire there. And the shift that I'm seeing with the healthcare sector is that before, most of the medical office buildings and the physicians' healthcare systems all stayed on a hospital campus, and that's where you had to go to see your doctor. The change is now that they're out in the community closer to where we are. So less travel time for us. We have a doctor right there in our own neighborhood, and if there's a need to go to the hospital, we're not going too far away.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see nowadays, like, a chiropractor pop up in a strip mall,
That's right.
or even, CVS pharmacy having doctors on site now helping out with like routine medical care. So it's really interesting how personalized it's gotten, and again it ties back to just entering the community.
That's right.
So I'm curious in that regard, what trends are you seeing from the buying side, just in terms of who is getting into the healthcare real estate sector from a buying perspective? What kind of tenants are coming online? Do you see any interesting uses being implemented? And with all that in mind, what are you forecasting the next 5-10 years down the line to look like?
Yes, so there's an ecosystem with healthcare.
Yeah.
Because there are synergies that are needed. You usually start with having a primary care physician. You have that person and you find out who they're referring to, because there are specialists that need to be around in primary care. You may go in and see your doctor and recognize that we have to refer this person to a cardiologist. As a result, it's good to have cardiology on campus. Then we also have orthopedics that's starting to see a lot of growth. We have oncology, which is really on a rise. And although there are so many areas where they're trying to eradicate these diseases, they're still happening. People are still getting sick. So having a one-stop shop, so to speak, with all of these services nearby is really a trend that we're starting to see continue. It started long ago, but it hasn't really shifted. So as the healthcare system move out to the community, so do these other services.
Interesting. So do you anticipate then we'll see maybe mini campuses of healthcare units starting to come online? Or is it more that these practitioners that are trying to have a little bit of everything within this one contained building?
Yeah, I wouldn't not necessarily say many campuses, but what I have known is some of these groups are so important to be in the community that they have multiple locations. So they're not necessarily giving up their on-campus location. This would be like a secondary office to be out there in the community.
Gotcha, that makes sense. And then are you primarily seeing like owner use operations
We
for the
do.
most part?
Those are waves.
Yeah.
So you do have a wave, and right now with the interest rate hike, that wave is still happening, but just at a slower pace.
Yeah.
Because people are now just starting to get comfortable with the fact of where interest rates are. But sales still take place because you still have your doctors that would rather own than rent. And so they'll have the condos, the medical office condos. And that activity is also mostly out there in the community. You would rarely ever find a owned space on a hospital campus.
Yeah, it's big. It's a
Yes,
big spot,
that's right.
absolutely.
And most of the healthcare systems, the hospitals on a campus have like a ground lease.
Yeah.
And that ground lease really dictates what's happening in their
Absolutely.
community there. So some ones who want to be able to do more than just work specifically at that healthcare system or that hospital may find themselves buying a condo off campus.
Absolutely, out in the community.
In a community where they can be seen. And you mentioned chiropractors earlier. We're seeing a shift with that too, where some of the physicians are looking for that retail type setting. So going into some retail
Medtail.
spaces, exactly.
Yep.
Medtail is really a thing because
Yeah.
people are going into the spaces, quick drive-up locations, signage, easy to find. So that's starting to pick up as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's not going to go away. Like you said, it's an aging population.
That's
People
right.
are still getting sick, unfortunately, but you're involved with the build out of the people supporting them. So that's
right.
really great. I want to be mindful of your time because there's still a lot of conference left to get to.
Yes.
But, I just want to leave our listeners with, if they either want to get into, maybe they're an investor and they want to get into the healthcare space, they see the resilience of it, or, they want to get more onto what you do and like support people who would like to participate in the healthcare retail sector, or honestly, just our young people who want to be in commercial real estate in general. What advice would you give these groups?
I appreciate that. And I'm going to work backwards because I really care quite a bit about the young ones that want to get in.
Absolutely.
Like I mentioned, I've been in 25 years. So I'm not new at this, but I also may not have 25 more years to give. So it is very important to me now to start training others and utilizing whatever skill set I have today, the talents that I have picked up, the mentorship that has been provided to me, share that with the other ones so that as they come into this industry, they have a solid foundation that they can continue to build on.
Let's forget the rest of that then. Let's just focus on this.
Yeah.
So what would you share with them?
Yeah, so one of the things that I had to learn early in life is to listen more and talk less. And that took practice because basically I have something to say. I want to share it. But you have to recognize that there's a time and then there's also a place. We're in an industry now where we were not able to always sit at the table because this was a man-dominated field. We have that opportunity today, and we don't want to lose it. We want to make sure that they recognize us as not competitors, but some that will continue to complement what they do. So as I teach ones coming in, it's basically showing how they could complement the services, remove the competition, let's help one another, because there's plenty of work out there for all of us.
And it's just getting bigger as
It
an
is.
industry. Yeah. Bettina, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you sharing your time, your words of wisdom. We'll definitely, hopefully, have you back on the podcast soon for a longer conversation because this is just tragically too short.
Looking forward to it.
Where can our listeners find you if they want to get in touch with you, learn more about what you do?
Yeah.
Where can they connect?
Yes, so I'm a part of the Colliers AZ Healthcare team found in Phoenix, Arizona, in the Camelback Corridor. And going to our website at colliers.com, looking up the Arizona Healthcare team, you'll be able to find me with all my information there, as well as the partners that I work with. Our bios are available to give you more insight into what we have done in the past, just in case you didn't hear enough today. And then also, I'm always available for phone calls, and I do set up time to mentor others. So if anyone's ever interested in getting more about, understanding more about the sector, I'm always available to help.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Get with Bettina, everybody. She knows what she's talking about.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you again. And thank you, everyone who tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, do not miss the next one in our Women of Influence series. Visit crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. You can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app or check out our YouTube channel for video recordings of each episode. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.